About 12 weeks ago, I looked in the mirror and I realized that I was getting fluffier than I was initially bargaining for when I told myself that fitness was gonna have to take a backseat to my business. And in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you exactly how I was able to go from 198 all the way down to 170 within 12 weeks time without ruining my metabolism or not eating carbs or not doing anything fun with my routine or with my life, and having balance with my workouts, with my diet, and with my everyday routine. So how are y'all doing? My name is Aaron Alanis. I'm the CEO and founder of Basics. It's an online personal training company that I founded in 2020. And before that, I was an in-person trainer in 2017 through 2020. And when the whole pandemic happened, I couldn't drive to people's homes anymore. And since then, I've helped a whole bunch of people all over the world, right? So here's how it went from, fat to fit in 12 weeks time. So first things first, I do want you all to kind of keep in mind that my definition of fat isn't necessarily just to physique wise. I personally felt like I was undershooting my own potential, right? Because me being a fitness coach and having this level of standard, I was looking like this. And that's going to be the first thing that I talk to you all a little bit about today. Like you see right now, this video is going to be a little bit different than typically what I'm making on this channel. And the reason being is because this video is more so about education, more so than entertainment. I'm still going to do my best to entertain you today. That way, if you're listening to me in your car or whatever the case may be, you'll still be able to have something to just listen to, right? Secondly, I'll be breaking down exactly step by step how I was able to structure my diet, my exercise routine, and my cardio over the past 12 weeks. That way you can, maybe find some inspiration. You can do what I do. You can talk to your trainer, your fitness friends, whatever the case may be, and then kind of cross-reference what I do with them. And then maybe you might be able to find your own way of doing things, right? And last but not least, I'm gonna be sharing with you exactly how I was able to make sure that I was still progressing over time without feeling like I was doing work and not seeing results. Because personally, I don't want to be the guy that's working out just to move. I want to be the guy that's working out to get a result. And whether the result happens in this month or next month or the next month or next month, I still want to make sure that I'm doing something that's going to eventually yield a result. And if you're the kind of guy that likes working out without seeing results, this probably isn't the video for you, right? So like I said earlier, this was me in around October. This was me in late January. And we ended up having a really cool transformation, right? So first things first, I do want you all to keep in mind that I'm going to be as vulnerable as I can today without being a bitch, right? I got soft. And when I say soft, I mean not only physically, as you can see here, but really more so mentally, right? I was the kind of guy that before I went down this whole self-improvement rabbit hole, I was the no emotions, no emotional intelligence, no feelings, just execute guy, right? And then a few events in my life just led me to studying more emotional intelligence and more mental health things and whatever the case may be. And I personally believe that I kind of overcorrected in that realm just because my nature personally is I'm a little psycho. I'm a little crazy. I'm a total maniac over my goals and kind of my sense of self or whatever you want to call it. Some people might think that's not good. Some people might say that's really good depending on how you're wired. And I've just kind of come to accept that about myself. And if you're anything like me to where you just have to win regardless and you repress that energy, what's going to end up happening is that that's going to end up turning into depression. And that's kind of what happened to me this last year because I really wanted to win, but I was listening to this advice telling me that six packs are overrated or money isn't everything and being emotionally intelligent and mental health. And my personal opinion is that as a man, do your feelings matter? Sure. But winning and providing and protecting is your duty, responsibility, and obligation to those in your life, for yourself and everybody else that relies on you to be your absolute best. And as I was pouring into, my business, as I was pouring into these relationships I was involved in, I was not making sure that my cup was still full over the past 12 weeks, right? So again, I was mad at myself for being a little bitch. And instead of me actually doing the work to change my situation, I just kept Uber eating food. I was self-sabotaging myself. And quite frankly, the reason I haven't been uploading a bunch of content on Instagram or TikTok is because I looked like this. And I'm a fitness coach. So it's like, for me, I can't be the guy that's making content about fitness and getting in shape and changing your life if I'm not proactively doing something to improve my current situation, right? So at the time, I temporarily lost a little bit of confidence within myself, as I should, right? And what ended up happening after that is, again, if you want to watch the whole kind of Instagram, I think it's called like a photo dump, you can just screenshot this on this video, watch it. I just posted something as of the time I'm recording this video, right? So here's how I toughened up, right? First things first, I decided to accept my true nature and stop hiding behind being average. At the time, like I said earlier, I was thinking that maybe having a six-pack's not for me. I have a buddy here in Houston that has a McLaren, like a bright orange McLaren. And I remember having a conversation with him about like, yeah, man, I think I've come to realize that stuff's not for me. And he was like, oh yeah, cool. But I could tell that he was looking at me like, stop lying to yourself, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing that so long as you're helping people out, right? That's the way I think about it. And I just don't think that we as men need to be minimizing our ambitions if we plan on doing the work needed to get there, right? So for me, I have high standards. If you're watching this video, I would hope you have high standards too. Don't settle for less than you're worth, right? Secondly, I replaced all of what I was purposely consuming in content with only tough content, right? In terms of like influencers like Wes Watson over here, we have Grant Cardone over here, we have Michael Jordan over here, and we have yours truly right over here. And my hope is that I can be that kind of person in my own way. For you watching this video, that way you can get permission to actually do the work, because more than likely you have a whole bunch of people in your life telling you that you're doing just fine the way you are. You look a little better, heavier, XYZ. It's like, dude, if you know that you're worth more, go get it, period, right? And last but not least, I decided to just become a savage once again and just reignite my burning passion for competition with myself, not others. So for me, I care less about looking like Wes. I care less about looking like this fitness influencer or that one. I just want to be my absolute best, right? And if you're anything like me, when you're scrolling on TikTok or Instagram or all these other platforms nowadays, it's so easy to compare your physique to that person's physique. But at the end of the day, you don't have their genetics, but they don't have yours. So the only thing that you can do reasonably is just to maximize what you've been given. That way you can be able to prove to yourself that you actually made the most out of your capacity. And whether your genetics are over here or whether they're over here, max out where you're at, okay, regardless. And I promise you that if you do absolutely everything that you can and you still fall short, being mad at yourself at that point really isn't just, in my personal opinion, right? So here's how I started from zero, right? First things first, I didn't try to pick up where I left off. For those of you all that have been following me for any period of time, you know that this is not my standard. And this is exactly where I let myself get. Now, I want you to think about it this way. I am the fitness coach, right? And I am someone that has been used to having a six-pack for a long time. I am used to being ripped and lean and having my biceps kind of showing like this. And then I let myself get over here. Now, here's the thing. Since I'm a fitness coach, thankfully, I'm wise enough to understand that picking up where you left off is a complete myth. So when I started over here, I wasn't trying to do the workouts that I'm doing nowadays. I was literally starting exactly where I was, and I didn't concern myself with benching what I used to before I stopped working out as much. I didn't concern myself with not looking the way that I used to. I didn't concern myself with not feeling the way that I used to. I started where I was, and I built up from there. What that looked like for me was just starting with little habits. For me, it was like eating a little bit healthier. I would start tracking my macros a little bit. The next week, I would start weighing myself. The next week, I started taking progress photos. The next week after that, I started working out more. And then after 4 weeks of really getting my feet wet again with fitness, because I was busy on like interview calls with potential students or serving my guys or whatever the case may be, after 4 weeks, that was when day number one started for me. So is the journey technically 16 weeks? Sure. But at the end of the day, day one for me really didn't start until 5 weeks later from my initial start date, right? So really what I started focusing on, like I just mentioned, was developing a healthier lifestyle. And I wasn't trying to achieve a specific goal. And if you're really wanting to win this year or the next year or the next year or the next decade, fuck the goal, bro. Fuck the goal. Focus on becoming the person that you need to in order to see the results that you want to. So instead of asking yourself, hey, how can I get a six-pack? No, who could get a six-pack? And me having this frame of mind, even as of recent, has allowed me to achieve so many more things with business, so many things with fitness, and whatever the case may be. And with fitness, I started asking myself, okay, well, what is Aaron, because I recently scaled my business to a cool number, what is Aaron who makes this number and still has a six-pack, what does he do in terms of like sustaining his fitness? And I wrote that down. He wakes up in the morning, he does a quick morning routine, and then he starts working out. As soon as he's done with his workout, that he works until he can't work anymore, then he goes to bed and repeats that cycle over and over and over, right? So I stopped focusing so much on getting the scale down to a certain marker, and I just focused on the habits. That's something I tell my clients, as you can see here, is I'm all about winning more. So if you think about it this way, if I told you watching this video right now, right, that I can increase your winning percentage by 365 times, would you take me up on that offer, yes or no? Now, if you're a smart person, I would hope that you would say yes, and here's exactly how you do it. instead of trying to achieve a year-long goal or a 12-week goal or a 90-day goal or whatever your goal kind of is, set the goal to just win the day. And then within the course of that year, if you get the outcome, great. That's exactly what you should have expected, right? But if you don't, you gave it everything you could have. And at least you can look back on the year and say, hey, I did it my best. I did X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. It didn't work out. No big deal, right? For me, I kind of realized that, if I was to just fixate on getting lean again, I would start getting in my head because I'm a fitness coach, making fitness content. If I'm not ripped, how can I work? I felt a little incongruent. So I let go of that whole pressure on myself to look a certain way. I just focused on doing the right things every single day. And within 12 weeks, I was able to lose, about 28 pounds. I feel better than I ever have. And we're going to keep on growing, right? And last but not least, I kept realistic goals. I wasn't trying to lose all this weight that I gained over the course of like 6 to 8 months, trying to scale my business and relocate my life out here to Houston. I didn't try to, make up for lost time. The first month, I just really focused in on, again, getting used to the routine, right? Second month, what I did is I started working out a little bit more. And that's when my friends here in Houston, that's when my family started noticing the difference, so on and so forth. I was really having a hard time kind of seeing the difference in my physique, but people in my life were able to see, hey, Aaron, you look like you're getting a little stronger, you look like you're losing weight, right? So for me, it was great. Third month, that was when I started noticing the difference. That was when my befores and afters started looking really, really different from each other. I started feeling really good about how my physique was looking, right? And the fourth month was when the cameras started noticing the difference. And that was at the very beginning of the fourth month kind of thing. So I know it says like 12 weeks, 16 weeks. Just stick to this plan and you'll win for sure, right? And that's pretty much the whole thing here. Next, we have my diet, right? Let's see if I can do this right here. Easy peasy. And so as you can see right here, this is how my physique ended up changing. It went from here to here within like 16 weeks, which is really cool, right? So here's how my diet looked. So first things first is I created my calorie deficit with the following formula. All I did was I focused on my weekly average. So what that looked like was on my low days, I was having my body weight in pounds times 10, like the number 10. If you are international, you can take your body weight in kg and then multiply it by 2.2 to get your body weight in pounds. And then just, add a 0 to that, and that's your low calorie deficit number. And what I was trying to shoot for was my body weight in pounds times 13 on a weekly average basis. And I'll show you exactly how I calculate that in a second, right? In terms of my protein, this time around, I ended up deciding to have a little bit more protein than I usually do. The way that looked like was me having, 1.3 grams per pound of body weight. And that put me around like 240, 230 grams of protein per day. And a lot of that was protein shakes. A lot of that was healthy steaks, salmon, chicken, beef, things along those lines, right? And in terms of carbs and fats, I wasn't necessarily too married to where they fell. I was really more married to the calories being at a certain number every single day, our protein being at a certain number every day, and my carbs and fats, I just kind of let fall where they needed to, right? And like I said, at the bottom of this right here, I personally like eating the same thing every single day. So all I wanted to do was keep things very, very simple. That way I didn't overthink the process that I was kind of doing, right? So as you can see here, I was not always super consistent with my calorie intake on a day-to-day basis, right? If you see on this day right here, it was 2,600 calories. The next day was 1,600. The next day was 32, 2,000, 16, 2,000, and then 2,400 right here. And I still averaged out underneath my goal for the week, right? So this allows me to have more food some days than the others. A lot of fitness trainers would just have you eat 2,300 calories every single day. There are certain benefits to doing that, but for me, to where I'm either going on dates or hanging out with friends or doing whatever the case may be, I want to be able to eat pizza. I want to be able to eat burgers. I want to be able to have ice cream. I want to be able to have fucking Reese's Pieces. I want to be able to eat these foods without necessarily feeling like I'm sabotaging my results in order to engage with my friends and with my loved ones, right? So this allowed me to be a little bit more flexible. That's kind of what I optimize for. The big thing that I teach my students is if you can't do it for 10 years, don't do it for 10 days. So if you need to go ketogenic in order to lose weight, do you plan on not eating bread for the next 10 years? If you do, congratulations. Salute to you. For me personally, I like bread. I like ice cream. I like pizza. I like burgers. The list goes on. So I like being a little bit more flexible with my stuff, right? So just like I mentioned earlier, kind of spoiled it, but I'm going to tell you again right here. Here's how I structure my meal plan. It's super complex. The nutrition scientologists might hate me. The reason I say Scientologists is because so many people make nutrition science and workout science and all these other sciences almost like their religion. And they're not able to really see past what the science metrics say or whatever. It's like they're just fucking find a way that works, in my opinion, right? So people that are like super science nerds might hate me, but this is what I do, right? I use the KISS method, the KISS method, right? I keep it simple, stupid. I keep it simple, stupid, right? And it's pretty easy, right? So, like I said earlier, here's exactly how I do it. And this is how my physique is looking nowadays. This was a few days ago. I pick a breakfast that I like. Pretty simple. I pick a lunch that I like. Very simple. Guess what we do after that? I pick a dinner that I like too. And then after that, I just eat that all the time. And then sometimes what I'll do also is, like you saw earlier, I might have, some donuts. I might have this kind of food, that kind of food. But so long as I'm keeping my calorie deficit on a weekly average basis the way it needs to be, I don't really care where my calories fall on a day-to-day basis, right? So again, I just try to focus on hitting my weekly calorie goal and my protein goal daily. Those are the number one and number two things that I optimize for, right? Next is this is how I kept on losing weight without plateauing. So for those of you all that don't know, typically when people start losing weight, they hit these sticking points. And when they hit these sticking points, they don't necessarily know how to navigate that point. So say, for example, you're 300 pounds, you start losing weight, and then you get stuck at 270. And if you don't necessarily know what's due to kind of get past that, you might only lose 30 pounds instead of the next 50 that you need to lose in order to get a six-pack, right? So what I did is the formula that I showed you all a little bit earlier, in terms of my body weight in pounds times 13, I just adjusted that same formula for every 10 pounds that I lost. Thankfully for me, I just needed to lose 30 pounds. So I just had to adjust that formula 3 times. And I also kept a very realistic time frame in mind. And that way I didn't give up. So if you're someone that has been doing all the right stuff with your diet, with your workouts and your cardio, you also have to keep in mind that any healthy diet regimen is going to have you lose at max 3 pounds a week on average. So what you need to do is you need to stick to what you're doing until you lose 3 pounds a week on average. And that's like at the absolute highest end. If you lose 1 pound a week on average, when you just add up all your daily weigh-ins Monday through Sunday, and you divide that number by 7, and you do that every single week, you should see that number going down. And I'll show you exactly how I keep track of those numbers a little bit later, so you don't get too lost in the sauce, because it can get a little confusing, right? So first things first, I adjusted the formula every 10 pounds I lost. Secondly, I kept a very realistic time frame in mind. That way I didn't give up 4 weeks in when I was barely seeing any results with what I was doing, right? And third is I took diet breaks every 8 to 12 weeks. And the way that looked, that didn't look like me having pizza, ice cream, and donuts every single day, Monday through Sunday. What that looked like was me eating at maintenance. So what that looked like was, again, body weight in pounds times 15 in calories. And then, again, protein, I kept my protein the exact same that I was doing when I was having, my calorie deficit formula. And after that, my backfilled calories were just carbs and fats. So, I ate a little bit more food than I typically did every single day. And then I might have had like a cheat meal or two extra that I don't allow myself to have typically, right? My favorite thing here in Houston is Voodoo Donuts. It's a pink box. I actually have a box right around here. I just had a diet break this last week, right? Next is my workout routine. I like working out 6 days a week. And the reason being is because for me, the gym is like a safe haven for me. It is like fitness is my life. I love talking about fitness. I love doing this, love doing that, whatever the case may be, right? But what I do notice is that sometimes when I do a push, pull, leg split, and I'm someone that's been working out for over a decade, my chest is already pretty strong and my shoulders are already pretty strong and my triceps are already pretty strong. One muscle group that I've always had trouble growing is my back. Because again, for the first half of my lifting career, I wasn't focusing on my posterior chain, which is everything behind yourself, right? So, hamstrings, glutes, calves, back, those muscles, and then my rear delts have always been a little bit weaker compared to my front end of my body, simply because I never looked at those in the mirror kind of thing, right? So because of that, I just swap out the push days and the pull days for one another. That way I'm able to really focus on my back and see that transformation. So as you see here, this is how I was looking at my day 1, and this is how I looked towards day 90, right? So like I said earlier, I like focusing on pull-push legs instead of push-pull legs because it allows me to bring up my back and just get better posture kind of thing, right? Next, the workout structure that I follow is pretty simple too. As you see here, I have blocks 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's going to signify the 4. And the 2 is 2 exercises per block. This is something that I call the 4x2 workout structure. And this is something that as you get really, really good and experienced with your fitness and your workout routine and your, just kind of your healthy habits kind of thing, right? You can even go to the gym and not even have an actual workout plan in your really planned kind of thing. And you can just go and say, you can go to the gym and know, okay, today is pool day, 4x2 structure. I have 2 pre-activation movements to do, 2 main compounds, 2 accessories, and 2 isolations. And that was what I was personally doing, right? So where I was doing my deadlift, and I always knew that I had to progress with either reps or sets and a few other ways that maybe I'll mention in a later video. But really, I just showed up to the gym knowing what muscle groups I needed to hit. I would annihilate them and then just repeat that over and over, following the 4x2 structure. So as you see here, pre-activation movements, I use these movements to kind of just warm up my joints a little bit, get a good temperature check for the session. So if my shoulders are feeling a little bit glitchy, my knees are feeling a little bit achy, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to find out that my body's not at 100% before I get to a main compound movement. And the reason being is because if you find out that your knees are feeling shaky when you have 300, 400 pounds of your back on a back squat, that can potentially lead to an injury. But if you find that out a little bit earlier, maybe on a leg extension, maybe on a body weight squat or something just to get your blood flowing, you can be able to auto-regulate, aka just go with how your body's telling you, aka go with the flow, or just if you feel really good, have a good workout. If you feel really bad, take it easier and just listen to your body, right? This allows me to get a good temperature check for the session so I know exactly what I'm getting myself into for that day. Following that, main compound movements, these are things like the squat, the bench, the deadlift, the weighted chin up, so on and so forth. Main compound movement is pretty much anything that's going to use 2 joints at once. So for those of you all that don't know, we as humans are rotational creatures. So when your arm is going straight, your arm is actually not going straight. Your shoulder is rotating inwards and your elbow is rotating outwards at the same time. So a main compound movement is going to be anything that utilizes 2 joints moving in sync versus something like isolation movements, where if you're doing like a bicep curl, you have the resistance coming up from down here all the way to your shoulder. And if you're doing a tricep extension, you have the resistance going the opposite way to work out your tricep. If you're doing a bench press, you have your shoulder and your elbow moving at the same time. Same thing with your back squat. You have your hips, your knees, and your ankles. Hopefully you get the gist, right? Accessories, these are movements that are going to be using more so machines, more so dumbbells, and other things like that in order to give yourself more, more muscle fatigue in a different kind of way, right? More than likely, your stabilizing muscle groups are going to be a little bit more exhausted after a main compound movement, which is why I like doing accessories afterwards with machines. Because if I'm doing like a heavy bench press and then a dumbbell incline bench press, I might use a chest press machine or maybe even like a cable fly that doesn't really use too much stabilizers in general, right? And then finally, I do isolation movements. These are movements to where I work out my smaller muscle groups for whatever that day is. If it's leg day, I'm working out my calves, I'm working out my hamstrings, I'm working out any kind of lagging muscle group if it's like a leg day, or if it's a push or a pull day, that's when I'm working out my arms, man. That's when I'm working out my biceps if it's a pull day, and my rear delts. That's when I'm working out my triceps and my lateral delts over here. It's a push day, right? And there we go. So here's how I structure my cardio. It is super complex, very, very complex. So if you are not smart, you're not going to understand this. The keto CrossFit Scientologist might hate me, right? Keep it simple, stupid, right? So I do this pretty simple stuff, right? I start each one of my workouts with 10 minutes of cardio. So like I said earlier, I have the 4x2 structure that I follow personally, and all my clients do as well. And then right before this, we'll do 10 minutes of cardio. You can do it on the treadmill or you can do it on the Stairmaster. I personally like the Stairmaster because you get more knee drive and you're able to just get some more blood flow in your legs. But you can also do a incline walk, right? But as of recent, I've been just using the incline treadmill because it just feels a little bit better, right? So I do 10 minutes before and then 35 minutes after each one of my lifting sessions with an incline walk. The treadmill settings that I typically do are 5% incline and then 3 to 3.5 speed. If I'm having a really good day, I'll go 3.5. I'm listening to Nipsey Hussle and I'm having the cardio session of my life, right? But if I'm having a bad day, I need to just listen to a podcast or listen to a course that I'm taking, I'll set it to 3 and I'll just, go through the motions and tough it out kind of thing, right? Secondly, I also do list cardio instead of HIIT cardio for myself personally. And the reason being is because all of my clients do the same thing that I do because I know what I know. And I prefer list cardio over HIIT cardio when you're trying to lose weight because you have type 1 muscle fibers and you have type 2 muscle fibers, right? So long story short, you have slow twitch muscle fibers. And then these are muscle fibers that, are more so for endurance, right? And then your fast twitch muscle fibers are things that help you be more explosive. So something that I found for myself is that if I'm doing any kind of HIIT cardio session after my lifting session, if I am on the last rep of a back squat or the last rep of a bench press or the last rep of any kind of workout routine in general, then typically what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave some reps in reserve when I should be pushing past that sticking point. That way I can save energy for that cardio session later. And what I found for myself personally is I would rather exhaust myself in the gym lifting weights. I would rather exhaust myself when I'm doing supersets or drop sets or anything like that with an accessory or an isolation movement. I'd rather do that and then just walk afterwards. That way I can just increase my activity level versus, do my workout and then keep some reps in reserve just so I can do some burpee backflips or jump ropes or something after my workout, right? So that's what I do personally. On Sundays, I walk either on a treadmill for 2 hours, or I'll take my dog to the park. I'll go hang out with some people and just kind of walk around and just stay active on my feet, right? And lastly, how I kept progressing. And this actually might be complex. And I was making some jokes earlier about stuff, but if you follow along, this is going to be the main secret, right? I track everything. So like I mentioned earlier, I have a confession. I am kind of crazy. In fact, I am full crazy, and I'm going to not hide it anymore, right? I am someone that is obsessed with numbers. I track my calories. I've been tracking my calories for over 10 years on MyFitnessPal, right? I track all my habits. I track all my morning weight, my sleep, and everything. That way we can optimize everything as well. And as you see here, I was actually tracking all my progress photos too with my physique. So I actually have a photo folder inside of my iPhone. And I just name it fitness. And that's where I put all my progress photos. Typically what that looks like is me just taking a front selfie, a front picture, side picture, back picture, and then I put the phone on my tripod, and then I have it facing me. I face the camera, then I turn my side, and then I turn my back to it, as you see right here. It takes 6 progress photos every single morning, right? This allows me to always make sure that I'm staying on track with what I'm doing. And it always gives me good visibility. If you're someone that's good with money, think about taking progress photos like checking your bank account. Ideally speaking, you check your bank account all the time, right? Same thing with your physique, okay? And the conclusion with this, I know that this video is a little bit longer. Maybe it's a little bit less entertaining. Quite frankly, this video is not meant to be entertaining. It is meant to be educational. That way you can stop being fat, because it sucks being fat, man. I always tell people that if you are struggling with self-confidence, if you are struggling with depression or whatever the case may be, get a 6-pack and find out if you still feel the same. If you still feel the same way, go find a therapist, go find God. You don't need to, trust me, just go find something else, right? But if you get the 6-pack and then all your problems go away because now you feel more confident than ever, you have more friends, your girls like you more, whatever the case may be, you just need to work out more and take care of your vessel, right? So please keep in mind that you can never start off where you left off, right? So for me, I'm a fitness coach, man, and these are a few guys that I've helped out already. I'm the kind of guy, man, that I am someone that holds myself to a very high standard physically. And when I started helping out guys in over 28 states across the country, Canada, Sweden, Australia, Finland, the Netherlands, and Switzerland, I let my own physique go trying to serve other people. And when I was trying to get back in the gym, dude, this whole 12-week transformation, it didn't happen with me just like working and then flipping the switch. I was trying to just pick up where I left off out of ego. And if you're someone that used to be in shape, stop that, man. I promise you that what you did in the past is the past. You need to start where you are and build gradually from there. That's the only way that you're going to be able to rebuild that physique that you once had and keep it off long term, right, in terms of the weight. Secondly, if you are failing to plan, you are planning to fail. You need to have a plan. You need to have some kind of routine that you follow every single day, whether it's something you find online, whether it's something that you learned yourself, whether it's something that you learned from me, whatever the case may be. Find some kind of routine that you can follow every single day and schedule out your workouts and treat them like doctor's appointments. I tell all of my VIP students to actually treat your workouts like pump appointments. That's what I tell my clients to do. It's like, dude, imagine if you were to go to a doctor, right? Would you show up on time, early, or late? Well, most people that grew up in a first world country treat doctor's appointments very, very, very good, right? With respect. And they show up early to the doctors, they're dressed for the doctor's appointment, they have all their paperwork, so on and so forth. But when people go to the gym to take care of their health before they need to go to the doctors, they show up with no workout plan, they show up in raggedy old clothes, they show up way later than they need to. They schedule the workout for 7 p.m. they show up at 9 p.m. and they can only stay for 30 minutes because they have work the next day, right? Go with a plan, go on time, and show up with the same level of sincerity that you would a doctor's appointment. So if you would show up to a doctor's appointment early with a plan, same thing with your workouts, right? And last but not least, stick to the basics. If you can't do it for 10 years, don't do it for 10 days. I did my absolute best to give you all the pretty much very simplified 30,000 foot overview as to how I was able to do this transformation for myself. This is Jeff Fairclough based out of New Jersey, excuse me. We have Ryan Barker here based out of North Carolina. And we have Joel Sadiq based out of Philadelphia. We have Brevin Beer based out of Dallas. And, these are just a few guys that I was able to kind of put together here that I've been able to help out in terms of getting their fitness to the next level. And if you're a high-performing man that, you're crushing your career, but for whatever reason, you haven't been able to really figure out the perfect balance between, your career and working out, you can actually book a call with me using the link below. I'd be happy to see if we can help you out. If not, no big deal. That's what the YouTube channel is for. But just wanted to make this video today to serve you all to the best of my ability and give you all actual information. I'm a fitness nerd. I could have made a talking head video and just edited it like crazy. I wanted to make something a little bit more raw, a little bit more value-packed, a little more authentic to who I am as a person, right? So I love y'all very much. And again, if no one's told you in a minute, I'll tell you right now, it's time to get your